Hello and welcome to Wingin It. So I have some more gameplay here today. This is from our most recent tournament, which is the Fairy Flycatcher Flip-Flop Free-for-All. Try saying that 10 times quickly. But yeah, as I said, this is the latest tournament we have ongoing, and this is a very different tournament to what we've run before. This is kind of a hybrid between a 1v1 and a 3-player tournament. So yeah, this first round is going to be 3-player matches, and then every round from then on, it's going to alternate back and forth, flipping and flopping between 1v1 and 3-player. So yeah, I'm quite excited for this. We haven't had 3-player in a tournament for quite a little while. So obviously it's quite a different game mode to 1v1. Some of the balance between the birds, particularly those pink powers, is definitely shifted somewhat. So yeah, I thought I'd try and feature at least a couple of these games because most of my games on this channel are 1v1, but definitely good to get something a little bit different with the 3-player. So yeah, we are going second here in this first of the knockout games. So let's see what we have got in the starting hand. And I think overall, not the greatest of starting hands, but a couple of things to work with certainly. I think definitely the Eurasian Nuthatch, probably the pick of the bunch there. And then obviously really I'm looking at the tray here. The cowbird, as I was just saying, those pink powers really wants to keep an eye out for, I think, in 3-player games. So yeah, going second, I don't know for sure if I'm going to be able to get hold of that, but I did take a look at my opponent's food, the player going first, and they didn't keep any seeds, so that gave me a little bit of reassurance that maybe they aren't going to go for the cowbird. But yeah, it's one of those where you just kind of have to wait and see. On the bonus card, Omnivore Expert, pretty straightforward, and I think really that's going to make me look at this Whipping Crane as well, just as something for the wetlands. Really at the moment in this starting hand, when you've only got Crane and Puffin, I think, yeah, you normally look for better wetlands options than that, but I think they can work. I think particularly if I'm going to be getting some extra food through the Nuthatch and maybe even the Oriole, although maybe that is a bit of a pipe dream at this point, it certainly is something to work with. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking here, keep these 3 birds, keep the food for the Nuthatch, and hopefully if the cowbird is still there, I can grab that. But if not, I think that Sandpiper is pretty good as well. Obviously, if I'm talking about looking for some good wetland birds, that is certainly a really nice option to go for. The downside being no worms in the feeder, but again, I think if I am going to be getting some extra food, and of course, with 2 opponents now, extra opportunities for my opponents to grab food and help recycle that feeder. So yeah, as I say, very different experience, I think, playing 3-player. Lots of different options can come your way, I think. You're obviously fighting a lot harder for the end of round goals, but also, as I say, things like the bird feeder, cards in the bird tray. You've got to really hope that 2 opponents are going to leave a bird for you rather than just one. So, yeah, really changes the balance of powers, like the pink powers I was talking about, these co-op powers like the Sandpiper. Now you're not just helping one other player, but you're helping 2. Similarly, birds like the Hummingbird and the Phoebe, if you're giving away free food, you're going to be helping multiple opponents. So there's a lot more going on. It's a little bit more chaotic at times, I think, in a 3-player, but definitely is a fun game mode indeed. And so here we go onto our first turn, and you will see that cowbird is still there. My opponent, they had the Dipper, which, yeah, I think it makes sense to play that. However, definitely, I feel like I would be grabbing that cowbird if I'm going first, but no complaints from me whatsoever. I'm going to grab that. And yeah, obviously, I don't have the bowl nest at the moment. I've got that Oriole, which obviously can help, but yeah, trying to play that at the moment, as I said before, is a little bit of a pipe dream. No cherries in my supply, no cherries in the feeder, so yeah, if I'm going to be able to get that down, it's going to take a little bit of work, but definitely happy to at least get that cowbird, and I think, yeah, being able to find a bowl nest hopefully shouldn't be too much of a problem. And back around to our next turn here, you'll see the tray is yeah, starting to look very different. That's definitely something that comes into play when one of your opponents has a bird like the Dipper. Obviously, the power being that you reset the tray and then you get to take one of the revealed birds. So yeah, quite good, I think, for me in this position, going second after that power, because I'm going to get lots of fresh new trays to look at. So obviously, they'll reset it and pick one of the cards, but there's going to be 2 other new cards as well as the third that is revealed after they draw one of those tray birds. So yeah, I think that's definitely another thing to consider. When it's 1v1, you're always going to get that opportunity. But in a 3-player game, the player going third here, they're not always going to get to see that fresh tray. I'm kind of at the advantage of being able to see that. So definitely For me, feels a little bit safer not having this wetland bird because I can kind of be patient, let my opponent reset the feeder or reset the bird tray, I should say, a few times. And yeah, then maybe a nice wetland bird is going to come up and I can grab that and play it pretty quickly. But yeah, as I say, pretty straightforward that second turn, get the nuthatch down. And yeah, even though the food there isn't exactly what I'm looking for, if I'm going for the whooping crane, I'm not really too bothered about exactly what food I'm grabbing. I can just quietly chip away at the bird feeder. I'm going to get some cache food on the nuthatch, which I can leave that and it's going to get points, or maybe I can use that to play either the whooping crane or the cowbird or any other bird I could potentially find. But yeah, here we go. On to the next turn. And yeah, you see my opponents there starting to sort of build things up. We've got the coal tit down for one player and the kite for the other. But yeah, for me, the tray, not really anything amazing that I'm looking at. Maybe that shoveler, but it's a bit on the expensive side. I'm kind of thinking maybe the screech owl, that could be an option for a second forest bird. So I was kind of debating whether to go and grab that. But I think in the end, I just bide my time a little bit, lay some eggs. I know I'm going to need to lay eggs at some point, right? If I'm going to be playing that second forest bird, or once I do inevitably play one of these birds in the wetlands at some point, I'm going to need some eggs to draw cards and get some extra cards as well. So yeah, this is something I like to do if I know I'm going to need to lay eggs at some point, and I don't want to make a decision. I don't want to have to choose between getting a bird or playing a bird or getting food. I just lay some eggs. And yeah, it does buy me that little bit of time. And as I say, in a 3-player game, a lot can change in that one turn. The bird tray might get reset. Maybe both players are going to take some food and recycle it round and get some food that I want to see. So yeah, I'm just buying myself a bit of time there. And so back round to our turn once again here, and you will see that buying time has definitely helped here. We have got some pretty good options of the tray. Most noteworthy, probably quite surprisingly, is that Steller's Jay. Definitely not a bird that I go for very often. It's quite difficult to play in the early game, 3 food, a couple of seeds, it's only 5 points, the power's not amazing. But for me, it was almost the perfect bird in this situation, because it's a bowl nest, so once I can play that and the cowbird, that's going to give me somewhere to get some free eggs. But also it hits the omnivore specialist, so yeah, effectively that's a 7-point bird now for 3 food. And yeah, if I'm going to be gaining some food, that's a 2-point forest potentially with a cache on the nuthatch and a cache on the jay as well. So yeah, I was definitely very happy to see that in the tray. I thought about the white throat as well as maybe an option, but I think all things considered, really, being able to play this Steller's Jay shouldn't be too much of a problem. Obviously, if I go for food, if I take a rodent, I get a reroll and get a seed on that reroll. I'm then going to get another seed on the nuthatch that I can use and play that pretty quickly. So that's going to help get some food. And yeah, that food is going to help play potentially this whooping crane, but I think definitely this cowbird. I'm going to be looking to get that down sooner rather than later, because I say this time and time again, but with these pink powers, if you can get them down quickly, you can get huge benefit from them all throughout the game. And once again, on our next turn, we have yet another very fresh looking bird tray to consider. So yeah, a couple of more omnivore expert birds there, and I was definitely tempted to maybe go and grab one of those, but yeah, as kind of mentioned, I think going for food there, hoping for the seed on the reroll, which does indeed come through. And yeah, I've already got the eggs down because I laid those on the nuthatch on the previous turn, and so I'm in a pretty good position here, I think, to play the Steller's Jay and kind of go from there. So yeah, kind of strange bird feeder early in the game. We're getting lots of fish, lots of rodents, so maybe I could have justified keeping the puffin and been able to play that, but yeah, I think having this whooping crane and Steller's Jay to get 2 birds down for the omnivore bonus card pretty quickly in the game, I think that's a good position to be in, and yeah, obviously sets me up pretty nicely just to try and get some of these birds down really early in the game. So 3 turns to go, another fresh tray. This time, maybe not such exciting birds to look at, but yeah, it is definitely a concern knowing that my opponent, or at least one of them, is continually drawing birds. Maybe it's reassuring that they're having to keep drawing birds because they're not finding good birds. But yeah, they're just looking at a lot more cards. Gives them a good chance of finding something good. Maybe something to put in the grasslands, or maybe tuck some cards, or maybe something in the forest, and then they can discard for more food. So yeah, having that access to cards early on is such an advantage. So in some sense, I'm a little bit concerned, obviously, that I'm not really drawing many cards. I haven't got this wetland set up, but yeah, just to get this Stellar's J down on this turn, I was pretty happy with that. Really is going to help generate some more food. And yeah, like I say, the bowl nest, I think, as soon as I can get this cowbird down, which I would like to do it this round, but all things considered, really, I think the whipping crane might be the priority here, just to at least get something down. Obviously, I'm going to go first in the second round, so I want to have something in the wetlands just so I can make sure that if I'm going to draw cards, I can maybe get some extra cards and go from there. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out, but definitely going to hope for go for food on this penultimate turn and then see where we go from there. And so we are indeed going to go for food here. We will take either of those food there, hopefully on the reroll get some seeds, and we do indeed. We get a couple of seeds there, which is very, very nice. So I'll grab one of them and then get the other with the Stellar's J power. So yeah, pretty happy. I've got, you know, in theory 4 food if we're including one on the nuthatch, so I can go and play both of these birds in a couple of turns. So yeah, as I say, I think probably whipping crane this round, and then hopefully we can get the cowbird down as soon as possible in the next round. And so here we go on to the last turn of the round. And yeah, you see my opponents playing some good birds there. So we got one playing the Benelli's Eagle, which, as I say, if you're going to be drawing lots of cards, you are inevitably going to find some good ones to work with. So we're going to play the whipping crane. We're going to draw the falconer, which, yeah, is a good bonus card. You know, I'm not going to complain. And yeah, it's something definitely to work towards. I think anytime you can get these ones that are 2 points per bird early in the game, you know, you give yourself the whole rest of the game to try and find some of those birds and work with that. So yeah, I did find it interesting, I have to say, to see the Benelli's Eagle go down so early. I think it's ordinarily not the kind of bird you would see played, definitely not in round 1. But I guess, you know, with the situation here, they're just trying to get that second wetland bird down. But also it's going to help for this end of round goal. So yeah, hopefully for them, they'll get some extra points from that. But yeah, end of round goals definitely are a tricky one to work with in 3-player, I think. You know, when you're looking at it from a 1v1 perspective, it's very straightforward. It's very much every point that I lose in an end of round goal is a point that my opponent gains. But in 3-player, you know, you might lose points, but it's going to depend which of your opponents is going to gain those points from you. And in some situations, it's actually better to just ignore end of round goals, I find, in 3-player, and just let the other 2 players kind of fight it out. And as long as you're qualifying, you know, you take that 3rd place, you're getting some points, and you kind of let the others fight over those. But equally, I've seen 3-player games where one player has just absolutely dominated the end of round goals, and the other 2 are kind of struggling to even get those 2nd or 3rd place points. And it can really be quite easy to run away with the game in that position. So there's 2 sides to every coin. But yeah, you know, it's always kind of tricky weighing up those decisions of whether you're going to go out of your way to do something just for an end of round goal, or rather just kind of leave it, do your own thing, and just get the minimal points you can for qualifying. But yeah, there we go, end of the round, and we do get a 2-way tie for first place. So we get a couple of points, which is definitely not a bad thing at all. So yeah, here we go into round 2, and yeah, not the most exciting of trays, but actually that was fine for me because it meant I could just go and play this cowbird. So yeah, I think really what I was looking for was a nice strong card drawing power for the wetlands, you know, maybe another forest bird to try and build up this engine I've got going. You know, I've already potentially got 2 points going on, so you know, if I can find particularly a nice hunting bird that's going to hit the falconer, or you know, maybe something that can get tuck cards or lay eggs or more cash food, that's kind of what I'm going for here. And yeah, definitely feels like this is starting to develop into some kind of forest setup where I can hopefully rely on the cowbird, get some free eggs. You know, maybe another bowl nest bird might be helpful for that, but otherwise it's just going to be about going for food, getting some cash food, and yeah, hopefully finding some nice big point birds to play. But yeah, definitely being able to get that cowbird down here. Hopefully we'll start to see some grassland engines built up, and we can benefit from some free eggs throughout the rest of this game. And so it comes back round to us, and you will see we have got a common raven. So I talk about hoping my opponents set up some nice grasslands. I wasn't quite hoping for a grasslands as nice as that. So yeah, not the bird you want to see, but at least I know I've got this cowbird and I'm going to benefit from that. So yeah, again, as with the previous round, we are getting some fresh trays to look at. and definitely a very, very nice tray indeed. So all 3 of those birds I would love to be able to grab. I think, I'm talking about a nice brown power for the wetlands. We've got the mallard, and then I either want a hunting power or some kind of catching bird for the forest, and we've got the hawk and the blue jay. So yeah, I would have liked all of those. I can only get 2, and then of course it gets replaced with another 2 birds that I also really, really want. So yeah, the mourning dove would be perfect. As I say, getting some eggs in the forest alongside the cache food would be amazing. But that house finch, I was so disappointed to see that come up, particularly knowing that the player after me is the one who's got the raven. So it's such a strong combination. You're getting the food to play birds, you're getting eggs, and you're getting tucks as well to cycle through the deck. Really, really powerful. So yeah, I'm just kind of at this point praying, hoping beyond hope that it is still going to be left there for me on my turn. And indeed, as it comes back around to my turn, you'll see they are both still there. So yeah, definitely very, very exciting. And equally with the raven player laying eggs, I get another free egg, and so I can chuck that and get 2 more birds. So yeah, house finch, mourning dove, that's a no-brainer from my perspective. That's just going to set me up so nicely in this forest. Potentially that could be my forest complete. I think all of these birds that I've got in my hand could be played. Equally, those 2 hawks in the tray are pretty tasty looking options as well. So yeah, this is one of those games where at the start I didn't really have a plan. It was just kind of play the nuthatch, get some food and hope. But it's kind of really slowly developing into a nice forest engine. So yeah, definitely with the birds I've got, it's just about getting the food, hoping for some free eggs from this cowbird to speed things up. And yeah, really just go from there. Obviously, I'm going to miss this end of round goal potentially, but like I said, in a 3-player, my preference generally tends to be to just kind of stay away from the end of round goals. And certainly if it's going to slow developing an engine, it's not worth going out of your way to go for that. So yeah, you will see there the raven player has played the meadowlark, so that's potentially going to give me some even more free eggs with this whooping crane. Obviously only 1 space there, but hopefully I can really manage that well. So yeah, we're just going to go for food. Was hoping for a nice cherry on the reroll, but we do at least get a couple of seeds. So I am going to start caching on the J, purely because I'm going to be gaining food so many times this game that I don't really want to be using the food that could potentially be points at the end of the game. And certainly the same is going to apply here of this nuthatch. So maybe if it helps me force down this house finch that little bit earlier, it might be something I'll consider. But yeah, definitely, like I say, I'm going to be gaining so much food, and hopefully I can save that for the cash points rather than spend that to play extra birds. And so coming back around once more to our turn, you'll see we get not 1 but 2 free eggs there, which is very, very nice indeed. So yeah, as I say, having that whooping crane there, only 1 space is definitely a concern, so I'm going to need to try and manage that. Potentially if I do look to play this mallard at some point, that has obviously got lots of ground nest space, so that is going to help out as well. So yeah, you'll see I'm kind of trying to work out what order to play all these birds in. So I definitely was looking at the blue jay and I was thinking, okay, omnivore, it's going to help the forest. My initial reaction was I've got to play it. But obviously it's got the same power as the Steller's J, so it's quite unlikely that you're going to re-roll the feeder and see 2 seeds and be able to benefit from both those powers. So definitely felt like a bit of a risk, which you'll see why in the end is why I go for the house finch. So I'm kind of thinking in my head, I can look to grab one of those 2 hawks in the tray. I think the red-tailed hawk would be my preference. The power is the same, but for 1 extra food I get 2 more points. And as I say, I'm going to be getting plenty of food this game, so that's not going to be a problem. And yeah, with the house finch down, I can pick that up while getting food through the tucking power and kind of go from there. So yeah, we'll kind of see how this develops. I think probably the mourning dove is not going to be needed at this point. It's a 0-point bird, and when you're getting to the end of the 2nd round, you're kind of going into that 3rd round. You kind of look at the end of round goals, you think, well, it's not going to help for those, it's not going to help for my bonus cards. And really, if my opponents are going to keep laying eggs, I think particularly the player with the meadowlark, if they're going to keep giving me free eggs to put in the ground nests, then I'm probably not going to need too many extra eggs through the mourning dove. So yeah, we'll see. We'll kind of just have to wait on if any birds get reset in the tray, or perhaps depending on the reroll from the bird feeder. But yeah, I think particularly those 2 hunting powers are what I'm looking at. So here we go, more free eggs. You see we just get the 1 that time, but that is enough for us to play another bird. So we are going to go for food, and we do indeed get those 2 rodents from the bird feeder, which is a positive. The negative is that we miss out on the seed for the Steller's J. So as I say, this is kind of the risk with these powers, and definitely is the kind of risk where if I was to play the Blue Jay as well, that would be 2 points that I missed out on there, just from an unfortunate bird feeder reroll. So something to bear in mind. And yeah, kind of stacking up on these similar powers is maybe not the best, but I'm feeling pretty good here. If I can play this red-tailed hawk, that's potentially a 4-point forest. At the same time, I'm getting a bunch of food. I'm maybe picking up some nice big point birds in the tray using the house finch power. So yeah, all feeling pretty good. And we'll just kind of review my opponent's boards at the moment. So you see, yeah, one of the players has got the American crow down, so they're going to be hoping to maybe get some food while they're laying eggs. But equally, if they're going to keep laying eggs, I'm going to get some points. And you might have seen as well, the player with the raven and the meadowlark, they played the avocet, so a pink power of their own, to maybe get some even more free eggs on their end. So yeah, as I say, pink powers for me in 3-player, they're kind of like gold dust. So definitely, if you can find them, play them. And if they're in the tray, as this cowbird was at the start of the game, you got to grab them. And yeah, they're just going to give you so many points throughout the rest of the game. And here we go on to the final turn of the round. As I said, unfortunately, the end of round goal is looking pretty much out of sight for me. But I'm going to still keep benefiting from these free eggs. So another couple there. And yeah, as I said, kind of crucial to really manage this space on the crane. So I think if I can keep playing birds, whenever that gets full, that's going to help. And obviously this house finch, plenty of bold nest space for the cowbird is going to help. But yeah, there we go, red-tailed hawk down. And for me, I feel like, as I say, that forest is pretty much done. And to get that done in the first 2 rounds is always a good position to be in. I say it all the time. If you can get your engine basically done in those first 2 rounds, and then just focus the 3rd and 4th rounds on running that engine, scoring points, getting food, getting big point birds and playing those, you put yourself in a really nice position. So yeah, definitely feeling good about how this game is going. But it's all just going to be down to the birds I can find from the deck, hopefully some nice big point ones, and obviously if I can keep getting plenty of free eggs, that is just going to help keep the momentum going as we go into the rest of this game. And so coming here into this 3rd round, we have a very, very tasty looking trait indeed. So you're probably all thinking I'm looking at the bird on the right, but my eyes are set firmly on that greater roadrunner. So obviously 7 points on its own right, but it hits both my bonus cards and it hits this end of round goal. So yeah, that's basically an 11-point bird that helps for an end of round goal. And I can get exactly the food for that in a single turn. So I'm just hoping beyond hope that it's still going to be there. As I said before, this is kind of one of the tricky parts of playing a 3-player game, is the birds in the tray are not always going to get left for you. So I did get a bit of good fortune earlier, clearly, with that house finch being left, and obviously the cowbird at the start being left by 1 player. But yeah, the roadrunner definitely has a bit of a reputation for not being the best engine bird. So I'm kind of thinking and expecting maybe it is going to get left. But if someone else has rodentologist or prairie manager or something like that, they might be inclined to go for it. But yeah, I'm just really hoping, like I say at this point, that it is still going to be there, and it's already been left by 1 opponent. So hopefully, as I say, just kind of wait and see, and it is indeed left by the 2nd opponent. So yeah, pretty happy about that. And as I say, I was always going to look to go for food this turn, and hopefully on the reroll we get a rodent. And there we go, we can get a tuck on the hawk, we can get a tuck on the house finch, pick up the roadrunner, we get a cash food from the jay, and then we get a cash from the nuthatch. So absolutely perfect turn there. Yeah, really, really satisfying. I get the bird I want, I get all the points I need. And yeah, really, at this point, my only consideration is how to play this game in terms of getting cards. Because obviously at the moment, my wetlands is not the strongest. The only option I'm really finding at the moment is this mallard. And as I said with the dove, when you're playing a 0-point bird in round 3, it's really tricky to justify. But, it might be the best option for me in this case because obviously it's going to get me extra cards. And in these kind of positions, when you have these kind of powers, I look at them not as their point value, but I look at them in terms of how many turns can they save. So at the moment, if I'm drawing cards, if I want to be getting, let's say 6 cards, that's going to cost me 3 turns worth of actions, and it's going to cost me eggs. Yeah, it's hard to justify that necessarily. But if I play the Mallard, I'm then going to have 2 turns drawing cards. So in total, still those 3 turns, but I'm saving eggs and I'm giving myself ground nest space as well. So if I'm looking at it that way and I'm thinking, right, that's probably how many turns I'm going to need to be spending drawing cards, or maybe that's how many cards I'm going to be looking to draw, I can kind of justify that in a point value sense. And then obviously on top of that, I'm getting this extra ground nest space, which could be crucial because, as I've said many times already, this crane with that 1 egg space is a bit tricky to work with. So yeah, I'm definitely considering the Mallard, and as strange as it might seem, a 0-point play, I think you can justify it in situations like this. And so here we go, on to our next turn. You'll see one of my opponents playing the Mockingbird. So that is always scary indeed. And there we go, Mallard is going to go down. So yeah, obviously, as I said, not always easy to justify the 0-point play, but I think here, I think I can definitely make a case for it. And yeah, that just gives me so much less to worry about in terms of the card draw, but also the free eggs from this Meadowlark. And again, with that Mockingbird, I don't know necessarily what they're going to copy. So this is the player who's got the Raven and the Meadowlark. They've now got the Mockingbird. I think maybe they're going to copy sometimes the Meadowlark and sometimes the Raven. So if I'm going to potentially be getting 2 free eggs in the ground nests every turn, I'm going to need as much space as I can get for that. So yeah, if I hadn't played that Mallard, I might be missing out on 3, 4, 5 eggs throughout the rest of this game. And so effectively you can now attribute those points to the Mallard and look at that as a 3, 4, 5-point bird. So yeah, happy to get that down. And as I say, we've got 4 turns left this round. We've got 5 turns left in the final round. I might be spending 1 or 2 of those drawing cards and seeing what I get, but definitely the majority of it is just going to be getting food, looking to get some tuck cards, get some cash food, obviously play this Roadrunner, and then hopefully just any other big point birds that we can find. And so here we go on to our next turn. And yeah, it is indeed time to go for some cards. So as I say, hoping for some big point birds. If I don't get any, it's not the end of the world because I am obviously just going to tuck with that house finch. But there we go. Bold Eagle. Very, very nice indeed. And yeah, that is one that is potentially going to come into play for this end of round goal here, but also that final one as well. And yeah, 9 points. Getting the food for that's going to be so easy. You see there's already a fish and a rodent in the feeder. But yeah, I'm going to be spending quite a few turns throughout this game getting some food. So yeah, it's satisfying to know that I've at least got 2 good options in my hand. And then I've got those other 2 cards that I'm probably not going to play. Those can just get tucked through the house finch. They're going to score points. And who knows, maybe I find some other good birds throughout the rest of this game. And so coming back around once again to our turn, we are going to continue getting some free eggs. So yeah, just the 1 from the Meadowlark there. But as I say, I'm definitely expecting to get some copies from the Mockingbird on the Meadowlark there. So we're going to go for food pretty obviously. Sadly, the Hawk is going to miss. But yeah, that Black Crown Night Heron in the tray definitely caught my eye as soon as it was there. So like the Bold Eagle, pretty nice to be able to play that kind of big point birds. And yeah, the 3 food costs going to be quite straightforward for me to get hold of. So I can definitely keep caching this food as well for the J and keep the stockpiles going from the Nuthatch as well. So yeah, pretty strong turn all in all. And yeah, obviously with this end of round goal, we're currently in a 2-way tie for first place. But I do have some good options. So I think any of those 3 birds that I'm looking to play, they can go down at any point as long as I've got the food for that. So it's just going to be about kind of monitoring the situation. Obviously going last in this situation is quite favourable for me because I can just be patient. I can wait and see, what are my opponents going to do? We've not got any of those teal powers in play. So there's not going to be any surprises for the end of round goal. But yeah, I can just wait and see. If my opponents really go heavy and put themselves in a position where I can't catch up, fine. I can just sort of keep on doing what I'm doing and go from there. But yeah, if they are going to play some birds, as it looks like at least one of them is starting to do, then I can just react and put something down on that last turn and hopefully get the tie. And here we go, background once again to our turn. Unfortunately, both players playing birds, so one of those rare turns where I'm not getting free eggs. But, you know, I've still got enough of a stockpile. And as I say, I am definitely kind of expecting maybe in that final round to see a real surge from the Mockingbird and the Meadowlark. So, yeah, having some space free on those two wetland birds is going to be nice. But we're just going to keep trucking on. We're just going to keep getting food. So, was definitely hoping for fish. I think, you know, if I'm going to play this bald eagle and the night heron, having some extra fish for those is going to be nice indeed. But yeah, equally, I'm kind of looking at those rodents and thinking maybe I find a nice golden eagle or something, or just some kind of nice big predator that's going to hit the falconer bonus card. So we'll kind of just wait and see. But otherwise, yeah, keep getting the tuck cards, see what we get from the deck, keep getting the cash food as well. And yeah, pretty happy with how this is going. As I say, we can just monitor for the end of round goal. Maybe we'll play a bird on this last turn, or maybe we'll just keep going for food. We have got options available to us, which is always what you want to have. And so, final turn of the round. You see once again, neither player laying eggs, which is a shame. But there you go. You know, you're not going to get the free eggs all the time. But we were in a position to tie the end of round goal by playing the bold eagle. And there is conveniently a fish in the bird feeder as well. So yeah, I felt like that was a good thing to go for. And then that gives me the extra food I need to play the night heron. So I don't have to rely necessarily on what the bird feeder is going to give me. But there we go. We get the tie for the end of round goal. And we go here into the final round. And so, yeah, you see, just kind of looking at my two opponents' boards, we've got a pretty strong grasslands there from the Raven player. They've also got the common swift. So I'm expecting, as I say, plenty of egg laying. They're just going to get loads of worms and turn that into tuck cards at the end of the game. And so, yeah, if I can have some space in these ground nests, that is definitely going to help indeed. And yeah, I think as well, you know, I'm kind of looking at that red knot in the tray as a pretty good option. So already starting to get some kind of stockpile of worms. We've got the white and no powers end of round goal that's going to help for. But again, ground nest space. You know, I've only got 4 spaces, so that could be filled easily in 2 turns if my opponent is going to copy their Meadowlark power. So yeah, if I can potentially pick that up and play it, get some extra spaces, also clearing out some existing spaces, then that just kind of alleviates a bit of the pressure there. And obviously it's going to give a bonus card as well. And let me look at some more cards. So yeah, you see we now have another Raven come down, probably a little bit on the late side for me to be worrying about. But yeah, it's still not the kind of bird you want to be seeing played. But as I say, we're going to go for food, and we are indeed going to grab the red knot. So having got the hunt on the hawk and another tuck on the house finch, and then obviously those 2 cash food, it's yet another very lovely 4-point forest turn there. So yeah, feeling quite happy to have 3 nice big point birds in my hands. I can afford to play all of them, and obviously, you know, I'm going to get huge points. I'm going to hit 2 of my bonus cards and hopefully get another nice bonus card from the red knot. So we'll have to wait and see what we get from that. But otherwise, we're looking pretty strong, I think, here for getting a good score in this final round. And so on to our next turn. And so, yeah, we do get the 1 free egg at least. But definitely, as I say, expecting some more Meadowlark eggs to come through. So we're going to play the red knot. We are very unfortunately going to draw the bird banda bonus card. So yeah, that was a bit of a shame to kind of miss out on that. You know, still 2 birds out of 4. You kind of think, okay, maybe half a chance of being able to hit that, which is why I'm kind of looking at this swallow as just maybe an option. But yeah, I think in this kind of position where I've already got 2 very nice big point birds in my hand that I want to play, I'm probably not going to leave myself any chance of hitting that. So it's a shame. But yeah, I think that red knot is still a good play. It's still 5 points. It still helps with a bit of egg space. It's going to help with this end of round. So, you know, maybe if I can win that, it's going to be worth some more points as well. But yeah, as I said, I'm definitely feeling happy with how this game has gone. And yeah, 3 turns left. I'm thinking probably just going to be 1 turn gaining food. So that swallow is at least going to get me a point by tucking through the house finch. And yeah, with those last 2 turns, you know, I've already got enough eggs, thankfully, to be playing these last 2 birds. but definitely I'm expecting to have the eggs come raining down, and it's always good to have the space available for those. And on our next turn, it is indeed time for the eggs to start raining down. So we get one from the cowbird, we get one from the meadowlark, and we get another from the meadowlark. So 3 free eggs in a single turn. Very, very nice indeed. I didn't have to do anything, and yeah, I still got 3 points from that. So yeah, definitely a nice position to be in. And equally a nice position to be in is to be able to play this Greater Roadrunner. So yeah, as I said, when I picked it up, it was kind of nice to have that in the back pocket. And yeah, to play that, hit the Falconer, hit the Omnivore bonus card as well. Very, very satisfying. So yeah, a couple of turns left. As I say, probably just going to be go for food and play this Black-Crowned Night Heron. So food time, and yes, again, the eggs are going to keep coming flying in. So just 2 that time. I think it was a case of copying the Raven just to get some more worms, I think, for their Common Swift. But yeah, still nice to get those 2 free eggs at least. We're going to go for foods. We don't get any seeds, but luckily we can take those 3 foods to set ourselves up for the reroll. We get a hunt, we get a tuck. Probably not going to matter too much what I pick up, or was kind of looking at the Swaiton's Hawk, but I think the Night Heron is still the better play. And yeah, we do go for the reroll. We get the cached food from the Jay, and we get the cash on the Nuthatch as well. So yeah, definitely happy with that. And even that painted bunting, you know, at this point I'm starting to think to myself if that might be worth playing over the Night Heron. So obviously this is the point where you could pretty straightforwardly do some maths. You can kind of, you know, calculate some of the certain points and the uncertain points that you're going to get. So Night Heron is 9 points, but I lose 2 eggs, so it's only 7. Bunting is 5 points minus 1 egg, so it's 4. But it gives me a bonus card, and it helps me end a round. So again, as with the Bold Eagle and the Red Knot that I played, if those are going to help me win this end of round goal, I can think about earning some extra points from that, and so that bunting is going to help out there. So yeah, it was definitely a position where, you know, when you feel in a safe place, you maybe take the safe play and take the points. If you feel like you need that gamble and you want to go for the bonus cards, then you can do that. And, you know, hopefully you find, you know, what are you looking for in this position? Maybe Food Web Expert, or maybe you're looking for Prairie Manager, or, you know, Rodentologist would be very nice, obviously, in this position. So yeah, there's definitely kind of a few options that are kind of going through your mind, and you're thinking, okay, what's my kind of expected output from a bonus card? And, you know, is that enough to make up the difference to something like the Night Heron, or should I go for the safe play? But yeah, I think generally for me in this game, I feel in a pretty safe position. So, you know, my first thought was definitely to go for the Night Heron, but equally it's just going to depend. If that bunting can get me some extra points from the end of round goal as well as that bonus card, then it might be worth considering. And on to our last turn, it is time to make that decision. But first of all, we are, of course, going to get a bunch of free eggs. So this time we do indeed get the full 3, which, as I said before, is very, very satisfying indeed. So yeah, we just look at the end of round goal position there. You'll see the green player has played the Inca Dove, so that got them their 4th white and no power bird. And so obviously me playing the bunting, it is going to get me at least that 1 extra point in general terms. But if I'm kind of comparing myself purely to the green player, obviously I'm taking 2 points off them as well, but not affecting the other red player. So yeah, you see I do kind of weigh it up, think in my head, is it worth getting those end of round goal points going for the bonus cards? In the end, I go for the gamble, and it does not work at all. So very sadly, we get a choice between 2 0-point bonus cards, and as you may know by now, my position is just to discard in this kind of situation. So yeah, I thought about doing that with the Bird Bander, I will admit, when that came up, but there were still a few turns left, and I was thinking, you know, maybe I get a double bird or something that can help me get 2 down, and you know, you never want to discard a bonus card if you then would have scored points from it. But yeah, this position where I've got absolutely no hope with no turns left, I'd rather just not keep it and sort of do my way of protesting against the bonus card deck. So yeah, all in all though, I think still, you know, it was a safe gamble to play the painted bunting. Like I said, it was saving eggs, it was helping for the end of round goal, and already getting me some points in that sense. So while it is a shame to miss out on the bonus card, it's not the end of the world. I do still feel in a pretty good position, thanks to obviously the pink powers, but just this very nice forest engine that I've been running. And so we come to the end of the game. We do get that tie on the end of round goal as mentioned. And yeah, we go here into the final scores. And yeah, I do feel like this was a pretty solid game, considering the start was a bit uncertain. The engine that was built up was very, very nice indeed. So definitely lots of bird points, 53, very, very nice indeed. A decent return on the bonus cards, even though we did miss out on a couple. Respectable return in the end of round goals, and even eggs as well, considering I didn't actually lay eggs at all. So, one of my opponents does manage to drag it back there, but plenty of cash food and of course plenty of tuck cards as well. Get us over the line in the end, and it is a pretty comfortable win in the end with 106 points up against 89 and 86. So yeah, very, very happy with this game. And I have to say, I think for me, the MVP here is got to be that Steller's J. Came up exactly when I needed it. And I do definitely enjoy these kind of games where those birds that maybe you didn't rank very highly, maybe they're the kind of bird you'd normally look at in a starting hand and think, oh, I'm never going to play that in a million years. But for me, I will say this time and time again, there's no such thing as a bad bird. There are only birds in bad situations. And this was exactly the right situation for that Steller's J. So yeah, to play that, hit the omnivore, hit the bowl nest for the cowbirds, and obviously it got me plenty of cash food as well running that for us. So really happy with that. And yeah, really happy to get this first win in the 3-player round. So thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this gameplay video. As I said, a little bit different with the 3-player. So yeah, if you're a fan of 3-player content, definitely hit that like button and let me know in the comments. And I can try to get more of these games done. So yeah, please consider subscribing as well if you want to stay up to date with more gameplay and strategy content like this.